Jesus Christos.
Here I am. And we're recording.
Okay. Hello.
Hello. So, sorry that we're not live today. We just spent half an hour jiggering with the thinger.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yep.
Man, my lighting's bad, hey? Like, the worst lighting. There is like a light here. And my door is here. Does this help? No, nothing helps me. I am the dark side, you are the light. That's how this is gonna go. Forever.
I am the light.
You are the light. So, interesting weekend this weekend. We had the Rapture that was scheduled.
Yep, we did.
And we also have, like a public squabble between like North Korea and Donald Trump. Like we're calling names now on the world stage.
Yeah, something like that. And then we also had Planet X that was supposed to come by too and obliterate all of mankind.
Yeah. And so that's all super funny because they were successful missions, all of them, and they kept us all like glued to screens and,
Yep.
It's funny because you talk to people, about like what they see coming.
Yeah.
Like what do you, like let's play with you. What do you see coming? like what's on the up and up? How is it gonna go?
Yeah. No, it's I look at stuff like that and I go, okay, well, I still have to buy groceries today.
Yeah.
So that's the way that shakes down.
Yeah, it's almost like a paralysis. Like being like 1/7 billionth of the planet is like, it's just never enough. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what am I gonna do about it? Right? So we go into this like cynical space, and it's not brave, and it's not important, and it's not doing anything. And it's like the whole gig, like regardless of the story or who's calling who what name, is like, as long as we stay fearful, like there's so much canned, ready-made fear sauce in the world. Like, what are you afraid of? Like cancer, a nuclear bomb, things changing really quickly. We're afraid of that. What else are we afraid of?
Oh, we're afraid of our government screwing us in some way, and we have no control over it. I think people are afraid just for the sake of being afraid at this point. And the media just keeps filtering more fear in. So it's like, well, we just eat it up. And like I said, you still have to buy groceries at the end of the day. So what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it?
It's almost like it deserves like an inquiry, because it's like, what are we so afraid of? Like, we're afraid of each other.
Yep.
That's why we don't like go knocking on neighbors' doors for help or anything else. Yeah. We're afraid of, obviously, death. Yep. Like, we're afraid of dying. And I mean, the ultimate fear is fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
Like, who to trust? Like, who knows what's going on? Who doesn't know what's going on? Like, which school of thought are you? And, like, at the end of the day, this narrative, this, like, 1% exponential graph of, like, things just going directly, like, upwards, as far as, like, people getting really, really, really rich, and then people getting really, 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 really poor. Like, it's like this, like, you see the graph I'm talking about, obviously, with my hands. Yeah. Like, it goes like this, like, it's like the rich get richer, and it's like it happens slowly over time, and then that's all that happens.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, at some point, it's breaking. And like we said, how do we bring it back to, like, the day? And, like, moms and families and people, like, I guess the question that I've been asking since I was a teenager is like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Which like arrives me directly in the lap of, because there's purposeful work to be done.
Yeah.
Just the fact that we can see all these problems makes us responsible for them.
Right. And I think that's ultimately the agenda, is stop having people feel like they're personally responsible for anything. Let's give them this grand agenda that ultimately doesn't make any sense, but we make them so fearful that the thought of actually going to their neighbor's door to ask them for, the proverbial cup of sugar scares the shit out of them. And we just keep everybody completely paralyzed
And yeah.
and submissive and in servitude, and then past that they don't really have to worry about anything. But then the population goes, well, okay, I don't have to be responsible for my neighbor now because I'm so afraid of the world ending that I've got, bigger fish to fry. But it's the exact opposite. We actually do have to take care of each other. That is the bigger fish to fry.
And it's like, are we able to do this before it's absolutely necessary?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's my question. Like, when we talk about like food supply and food source and, like local solutions and like community happenings, and it is happening. Like, it is happening. Like, people are getting together, and it's like, there's like this new model of like a cooperative that like emerges. And like, that's like, it almost seems sometimes like it's like, as long as there's money involved, it's like a different dragon, different day.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's like all these people coming together, trying to get along and trying to empower each other. And it's almost like it's going to take like some kind of mass crisis for us to be like, okay, now we have to work together.
Yeah.
Because like a cancer epidemic isn't good enough, and a fear epidemic isn't good enough, or we're so far into that potato sack that we can't even like see that that's like, where we are as like a macrocosm is like, like we're in this program, and all we need is like one news story about one fighter. Like, what did they say? Fox News is like, US, this is a picture of the US like launching a plane, like a fighter plane, and it's just going to go fly over Korea.
Yeah.
So of course, even me, who like considers myself like awake to the agenda that I, am a part of, because I'm driving a car and, consuming processed goods that all are owned by the same 85 people on the planet. Like, I'm part of the problem, and I'd like to think that how I spend my time is like, maybe it's like an 80-20.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm giving back to the grid more than I'm taking, hopefully, at some point. I don't know. I'm kind of being random. And let's talk about food.
Yeah.
It's one of those things you can't quit.
Yep.
Well, you can. We don't want to like, leave out the breatharians or anything.
Yeah.
And it's difficult. It's like acting and pushing and creating like against the inertia of the commercial food industry. Right. So because we're so separate, it's like, I'm going to go get my eggs here and my hams here and my this and that, or, devote myself to a weekend of like going to the farmer's market, which in my community is a lot like the stock market. It's just like wall to wall people and their kids and
right.
Yeah.
So what is it about food that stresses you out the most? Is it just the inability to see where you can get it from, or is it just, I just would rather just go to the grocery store?
Yeah. I mean, I'm speaking from my perspective, living in the middle of Calgary, right? Like, I legit live in the middle of Calgary. Like, I can go anywhere I want. So lately I've been ordering from HelloFresh, and we can tag them. It's great. It's like they deliver single serving everything.
Yeah.
and you can create a really fantastic meal for your whole family in half an hour or less, approximately, right?
Yeah.
Like on the weekend, I made like fresh pork chops and wild rice and some sauteed chard, and I looked like a champion. Like I had like sauteed fruit, and like I was using like herbs and spices. Like HelloFresh makes you look like a champion as like a mother who wants to feed their children whole foods like 95% of the time.
Yeah.
Right? I don't care about like the bowl of ice cream or the Slurpee or whatever on the weekend, whenever. And these lunches that we're packing, these breakfasts that we have before school, and, you know, these dinners that we come together around, like, it feels so lonely.
Yeah. 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 Well, and that's, I think that's, it's so much of something that I'm not even sure where to begin. It's like food didn't used to be what it is now. Food is like, right now it's like the shirt that you put on in the morning. It's something you have to do
Yeah.
so that you survive. You know, am I going to pick the plaid shirt or the, you know, the skull shirt today? Is like, am I going to pick the Eggo waffle or am I going to pick the mini wheats in the morning? It's just, it's like, it's something you got to get out of the way just to get through the rest of your day.
Yeah.
Where before, and when I say before, I only mean like say 50 years ago, mealtime was the time where you had with your family. You cooked together, you prepared it together, you sat down and you ate it together. And that was the time where you had with your family before school, before work. Not necessarily lunches, but certainly breakfast and dinner.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's basically just fallen right into the whole fast food mentality that our society has. Right. I want it. I want something fast. I want it now. I want it in 15 minutes. And I want to just feed the gap in my kids and then send them on their way. So I think it's not just the food. It's our idea of food and our idea of family that needs to go back to change.
Yeah, and I feel like even you saying like we used to prepare food together, I had this like image of like Little House on the Prairie, where like, they would be like skinning the potatoes and everything, and then talking. Like I totally get that, and it's crazy. Like, I mean, living in the city, I mean, your kids walked to and from school, ever since moving to Didsbury. My kids, I drive like legit across town.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like this like when people come home or my family comes home and they're all hungry, it's like, yeah, I want to be like Holly Hobby with like, you know, everybody's like place settings and like dinners ready to serve. And that's like awesome. It's like, that's like a massive production for one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, get all the ingredients in one place, make it taste good, and then present it in a way that everybody wants to eat it. Like, that's like my issue. And like, I feel like it's gotten to the extreme, you know, like I look up like a recipe on the internet and there's like 22 ingredients.
Yeah.
It's like, man alive. I just like, and then it's
instantly overwhelming and it's instantly, I don't even want to do this.
Exactly. Which is why I'm drawn to your movement. Like, moms for real food. So I'm saying to myself and my family this weekend, I'm like, okay, guys, I want to try something. So, or I want to create something. Like, forget trying. Let's do this, you know? Yeah. I would like us to eat whole foods when we're here.
Yeah.
And if we're going to bring something into the house, or we're gonna like desire something like, you know, like chocolate or a cake or ice cream, I want us to endeavor to create it ourselves.
Yeah.
So if we really want a banana bread, we will make one.
Yeah.
Right? And if we really want some ice cream, let's figure out how that's done.
Yeah.
You know, like, so that we really start to get like used to at least related to ingredients and what's whole, what's been fragmented. Because I said to my kids, apple juice is very innocent. It's apple juice. However, just the fact that there's no fiber
Mm-hmm.
in apple juice makes it so that there's an impact on your body of some kind, i.e. need to release insulin.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like any place that we get further away from the hole, there is an impact. And over time, that's called chronic illness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And not to mention learning problems and, you know, immune system issues and skin stuff. Like,
yeah. So, you know, while I'm listening to you talk, I get this a lot. Like, a lot of people say this to me. I just, you know, I want to do all of this. I want to make my own banana bread and my own ice cream, and I want to feed my kids a real dinner. But I think we start because we can't. I don't even know how to say this. We can't completely 360 our life overnight.
yeah,
Because it will literally drive you to drink. Like that, you just can't do it. You can't take one day, you know, after having the weekend that we had with the Slurpees and the chocolate bars, and then go into Monday and go, okay,
well, yeah,
I'm gonna make arugula salad, and we're gonna have homemade ice cream for dessert, and we're gonna do banana bread for lunches tomorrow. You can't. You gotta start somewhere small. So if that is your end game, then great. But I think what you need to do is, and you know, when I say you, I mean everybody, myself included.
yes,
Start with something basic like dinner. Just start with dinner.
yeah,
Okay, so we're not going to have processed foods for dinner anymore. I don't care if we have the mini meats in the morning, whatever. We're going to start with dinners. And just start there. Because if you try and do it all at once, it's going to go out the window as quickly as it came in.
okay,
And you're going to be like, screw you, Whole Foods. This is not for me.
right,
It's not going to work.
right, exactly.
Yeah. So just start small, man. It's
Whole food dinners.
right. So what I do is I quite literally schedule time to make dinner. It's in my scheduler. Like sometimes if I know I've got a lot of work that day, I will have it in my iCalendar to pop up 15 minutes before and go, time to make dinner.
Right.
And I don't do anything else during that time. And the payoff is I feel better as a mom.
Yeah.
And that may set my self-esteem, you know, bar really, really low. But
when I serve food that my kids eat, I'm like, oh, I am the champion of the entire planet.
You feel like the frickin' Pope, dude. Like it's like, oh, they like it. So and part of that is meal planning. And I know every time I say meal planning to people, they go, meal planning, no, it's the devil.
Yeah.
But it isn't. It really isn't. So I'm going to share in the comments of this video, but also with you, my quick and easy meal planning guide. And basically all it is you pick 1, 2, 3 of your favorite cookbooks. And I'm not talking about Martha Stewart or, you know, Nigella Lawson, where you need
going vegan.
Yeah, or like a big
against veganism. It's just like it's not practical for families. Like it's crazy to. Well, I mean, and some people do it. Like I know a vegan.
Some people do it. Yeah, some people do it, but these are people who've also been practicing a certain way of eating for their whole life, and then they just incorporate it into their family life.
Right.
Where a lot of people are like you and I, where we just decided one day that we want to change the way we eat. Yeah. So it's learning new habits for us.
Yeah.
And then trying to incorporate it into our family, which is fucking hard. Like I'm sorry, but it is. There's some people that are going to be like, oh no, it's totally easy. No, it isn't. Not when you've raised your kids on McDonald's and stuff already. It is hard to make that transition because I had to do it with my oldest one. And it's not easy, but you can make it easier in the ways that you can make it easier. Like finding cookbooks that you like. Like I love Thug Kitchen is a good vegetarian one because it's super simple. Like the ingredients that you need are up to like 6 things. That's it. And then Jamie Oliver too. All of his meals are super easy, and he will even do the work for you at the beginning of the cookbook where it's like, this is the shit you need for your pantry.
Yeah.
And if you keep this stuff in your pantry all the time, you can cook every recipe in this book.
So being in the city, what I'm hearing you say is that I could take your meal planner.
Yeah.
And I could feed it into, and I could create everything that I would need. So I could actually just grocery shop like once, like every 10 days or once a week.
Yeah, once a week, once every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, and depends on what your budget is too. You know, if you've got a weekly budget, then do it every week because it's going to make it easier for yourself.
Yeah.
But if you only get paid every 2 weeks, then do it every 2 weeks.
Good call. Okay.
Yeah. And give yourself some grace. You know, obviously if you put a 2-week meal planner on your fridge, there are obviously going to be days where you come home and you look at your meal planner and go, you know what? I kind of feel like just making mac and cheese today.
Right.
You know, and give yourself that. If you can successfully do, at the beginning, if you can successfully do 2 meals in that first week, you're a freaking champion.
I'm totally taking this on, hey? Like, I'm like fired up, inspired, and like, I want to go like bit by bit, right? So it's like, if I take on dinner, or when I take on dinners and I go all in with dinners, then that's what like October becomes, is like dinners. And I can see like the outward impact of this immediately for me is the packaging that's going into my garbage. Right. And the other thing is, of course, like, you know, creating that like really like feel good, like mom rocked dinner.
Yeah.
Which I want to say is heart based. Okay.
It is.
Our Heart Media station is Heart Connect Media. Like, I want to say that like it feels good to moms and dads in the heart to cook. It's not like an ego thing. Like, I rocked that dinner. You know, it's like this really is the heart, and like doing things in baby steps is brilliant for one, because, you know, consistency is king. And
you know what's really funny is I just got an email from Jamie Oliver.
Jamie, you know we're tagging you now, Jamie. He is just fantastic in my opinion. As far as being like an interrupter, and which is what I believe myself to be, and I that you relate, is okay, let's interrupt this just for a second. And let's my boy's home. Hi, it's okay. You're okay. Just come upstairs. It's okay. Hi, baby. Hi, baby. Another episode brought to you by Alicia, the awesome carer of the child. My son is like sick today. He's got like mucus and his guts are weird. I don't know. I'm just ready to like get a handle on this, you know? Like, I'm a herbalist, you know, and I don't even use my medicines in the food, because it's like, who puts freaking oregano in macaroni? Like, nobody does.
I may have on occasion.
You know what I'm saying though? Like, it's like food is your medicine, and like I've made every excuse. I'm done with excuses. Like, if you hear me, you know, on the show or in my life, like saying, you know, this is my excuse, it's not real, and I'm welcome to it. You know, like, if I can make, you know, if I come home and I'm just like throttled after like a ridiculous day, and I do call, you know, the pizza place or whatever, I'm not gonna like think I'm a failure or anything. I'm just so invested in like being part of the solution that like I really appreciate the conversation, and I'm curious like if anyone else is in, you know, like Whole Food October, like, you know, could we put a post up and say Whole Food October and like post a bunch of pictures just for fun?
And I am perfectly willing to do some Q&A. Like, if you've got questions about it, I'm perfectly happy to fire back what I think would be your solution. Of course, I'm not going to know everything. I'm still just a mom.
Well, I think the big thing is
I've lived it too, and I know what works for my family, and I know what hasn't worked, and I think it's pretty universal when it comes to moms and families.
I think extremes is the sickness of our lives, our media. Like, oh, today I'm going to eat this way, and then tomorrow I'm going to start fresh, right? Instead of it being like a slow integration about what feels really good. Right? if I lose a few pounds, super. And if I'm more concerned at this point, like, and this is what I say to my students and my friends and my clients is like, doing a small thing every day is way more powerful than doing a big thing one day.
Yeah.
Right? So like running a marathon one day, like, woohoo, you ran a marathon. Walking around your block 3 times every single day for a year will yield more results. Right? So like I see this as like, there's a food prep thing. It has everything to do with my scheduling. Like that is like illuminating me right now. So like halfway through the day or even right after the show, I'm going to prepare lunch and dinner at the same time.
Yeah.
Because you only have to take the cutting board out so many times.
Yeah.
And,
well, and you know, and to that, if you find that it's the meal prep that's driving you crazy, then buy the pre-cut stuff.
Right.
It's still a real onion and it's still real celery and it's still whatever. I mean, they've got everything now pre-cut. They've got, you know, you got your onions, your celery, your garlic. You've got, I even saw
really helpful actually.
Yeah, I saw beets pre-cut. So if that's your deal, just buy it pre-cut. Who cares? You know, it's still going to be the whole food. It's still going to be the real food.
Yeah.
And that if that sets your mind at ease a little bit, then do that.
I think too, another barrier that I'm coming across too is like all of the chopping and the soaking and the, like when you really get into this, right? You're like soaking your nuts and you're like going to specific people. Did you just get like a teenage boy giggle? That's awesome.
I did.
Soaking your nuts, just soaking your nuts. So it's like, and you're like sprouting and you're you know, using herbs and stuff like this. And it's almost like, and then there's like this whole thing. It's like, you need sharp knives.
Yeah.
You need like the proper type of cookware, right? Like this is like, it's like a game and it's easy to give up because it's so big. Like,
yeah, well, that's just it. So, and I know a lot of moms are like that because we have this inner mom competition that happens every day. Whether or not we're aware of it or not, it's like, well, if I'm going to cook like, you know, like Joey's mom, then I'm going to have the professional knife set and I'm going to have the pampered chef and I'm going to have this and that and the other. And you don't.
Right.
You don't. So if you cut your onion with, you know, your 25-year-old steak knife that you got from grandma's house, you know, last time you were there, whatever, just get it done. And if the recipe calls for a food processor, you ask yourself, do I really need a food processor, or can I use a blender, or can I use the magic bullet that's been sitting in my cupboard for 1.5 years that I've never used?
That nobody will buy off my auction site no matter how many times I post it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we're declaring it Whole Food October.
Whole Food October.
Sponsored by the Moms for Real Food.
Yeah.
And we're going to do fun stuff like, I like Monday, like let's touch on food on Mondays.
Yeah.
Right? I just find like when my food comes together on Monday or when there's like some accountability, it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah, this will make, if we go to hell in a handbasket as a family, as like, you know, my workplace, my community, if everything goes to hell in a handbasket, we are set to have 5 solid dinners this week. And that's exciting for me, just for my mom heart and for my globe heart, which is like, man, the amount of packaging coming out of here, like even with HelloFresh, like they're really good. Like they're like, oh, it's all recycled.
A lot of packaging.
Woo, and ice packs and then freight to ship it here, right? Like it's like, okay, HelloFresh, thank you for bridging the gap. Thank you for awakening me to the fact that I can cook for myself, obviously. Yeah. And it's like inspiring me to like, you know, they're sending you single serve everything, right? Yeah. So it's like, here's your rice, here's your garlic, and they're using plastic, which, you know, if they ever watch this, that would be rad if they did. Like, I mean, there's nothing to do about it, right? Because they're what we've been eating for meals is like heads and shoulders beyond anything these children have eaten, right? Like it's like schmancy almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, we have to consider the packaging.
Yeah.
We have to consider the packaging. Like, buying bulk and storing in glass instead of cardboard and wax paper and all of these, that stuff like really, it's kind of like after Christmas where you almost feel like dirty because recycling is like, right? And you're just like, I consider us a really like globally conservative family. And it's like, your recycling's like exploding, right? So it's like, and money.
And that's part of it too. So when I do go grocery shopping, I look at my list and I think, okay, if I've got 2 chicken meals this week, do I buy exactly what the recipe calls for, or do I buy the like extra large jumbo thing and I separate it into 3, stick it in my freezer, and then I've got an extra one for another recipe next week.
Right.
That way, at least you can, if that's what's really, burdening your mind, then that's going to be your conscience clear. It's like, whatever. I bulk bought. And same with spices. A lot of people will look at recipes and go, oh, it needs, thyme and rosemary, and I'm going to buy the fresh stuff. And then it sits in your fridge for 3 weeks and it goes rotten. And then you feel extra shitty because you now have wasted food. Yeah. So go to the bulk bin and buy the bulk dried stuff. Nobody cares. It's the same stuff. It's going to last in your cupboard for forever. And at least then you have it, but it's not going to go bad and you're not going to waste it.
Yeah. And I mean, at that point too, like coming from my like herbalist head here, it's like, those spices are for flavoring. That's why it's okay that they're like super dead, right? Yeah. Like, and when we go to make like a soup for like a cold or something, that's when like maybe, having the fresh herbs or having something more bioavailable makes a difference. Every day, like spicing your lasagna, it's like we can, have the best of both worlds, right? Like it's exactly. Dried herbs, spices, and teas are really valuable because when you add water, the medicinal properties definitely are still there. And, over time they turn to dust, like all of us.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the Moms for Real Food October Challenge. And I'm totally in. I'm number 1, I'm in. And so we can set up fun stuff on our page to talk more about Moms for Real Food and this whole food movement. I feel like there isn't a place in my life that this doesn't benefit. Like,
well, that's just it. I mean, like I said, we all have to eat, and you said that too. It's like you can't not eat.
Yeah.
So,
so
you're either going to be happy with the way you eat now, or if you're not happy, there is a way to be better, to do better.
Yeah.
And it's not nearly as complicated as we all think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm inspired to see where this goes, and if there is support for, if there's other moms that are interested in joining in.
Yeah.
If there's people in like Alberta and BC that are willing to like host meetups where it's like, let's have Saturday dinner together.
Yeah.
Right. And like really talk about like the value of coming together, like in a potluck or coming together to create like a big chili. Like, what is the value of us coming together and like inspiring these like, meetups and emergences like all over our 2 provinces to say like, let's get together and like let's live stream from there, or just let us know because we'll give you the keys.
And I think there's something really to be said for coming together and even venting. This is my challenge as a mom when it comes to cooking food, and I find it really overwhelming, blah blah blah, for this. And someone else can come and say, I used to have that problem too, but this is what I did. Or, that's my problem too. How do we fix this?
I was just thinking just in that moment about the onion problem, right?
Yeah.
Like chopping up this onion and like, like it's crying, you're crying, and like you need to wash your hands. And now that you can buy them cut and then, blah, blah, blah. I was just thinking, does it work to like chop up like 3 onions and then put it in a Ziploc in your fridge?
Yeah.
And then you can or in your freezer, and then you can just like grab a handful of them and start the next soup or start the next recipe.
For sure. We used to, okay, so here's a really cool resource that not a lot of people know about. In the fall, and it must be coming up pretty quick here, Heritage Park in Calgary.
Yeah.
They have their fall festival.
Uh-huh.
And it's all of these local farmers and urban producers who bring all their stuff to Heritage Park and they sell it.
We should go.
So what I did, I haven't been for a while, obviously, because I'm in Didsbury. But what we used to do, so it would be me and my mom and maybe my aunts. We would go and buy like tons of food for super cheap. So stuff like kale, onions, potatoes, carrots.
Okay.
And you spend a day chopping. And then it all goes in your freezer.
I love it.
Yeah, like kale. Kale's a huge thing right now as a superfood. And I've always known about kale because I'm Dutch and German. So kale has always been a part of my diet. And it freezes super easy. And it actually tastes better after you freeze it because it gets rid of that woodiness.
Right.
And you pull it out of the freezer and you can put that shit in anything. You can put it in pasta. Lasagna. It basically takes the place of spinach because it kind of has that same flavor that sort of incorporates into everything else.
What's with your dog?
My dog is barking at something. I don't know what he's barking at.
Your dog's like in distress.
This is what happens. Hang on.
So good.
There we go.
He stopped anyway.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah,
I thought the mailman was there. With the secret letter.
A secret letter from the mailman.
Like the Blue's Clues show. Mail.
10-second tidy.
Okay, so that, yeah, okay, so we just talked about doing like a big spend at the Heritage Park, chopping, storing stuff in the freezer. Yeah. That's brilliant. I didn't even think about that. Because oftentimes, even when you do make it to the farmer's market, it's like, well, I don't need like 6 of these things. And like they're cheap, right? So it's like, why would I buy a case of butternut squash? Well, that's making sense to me now because you can make a huge batch of butternut squash soup and like freeze it or just the pulp. Okay, this is good. Good. This is like binge prepping.
Yeah, exactly. And we're huge on, or I am huge on batch food. So if you make a soup that you like, why not make enough for 4 meals while you're making it?
Exactly. I didn't even think of it. That's why. Same
with spaghetti sauce. Why not make enough for 4 meals or 2 meals, whatever you want to do. And then all you need is the pasta on hand.
Wait a second. You can make your own tomato sauce.
Yeah, they're called tomatoes.
Oh my God. I can honestly say that I've never done that and I really would like to.
It's actually pretty easy too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, and then there was one more thing about like, are you open to this month like talking about kombucha?
Yeah.
And also the other topic I'm really interested in for some reason is preserves.
Yep.
And I think it would be fun to this is like my weirdness coming through. What does it look like to actually be ready if let's just say that there was going to be an apocalypse and like say that we had to stay in our houses for like a week. Maybe we don't have gasoline, maybe we don't have power, whatever. Like what kinds of stuff can we put in our basement that is going to make that not a big deal?
Anything that's dried, canned, salted, or cured. So you've got canned goods, so I would skip tomatoes or anything like that because they will carry bacteria, but stuff like dried beans, dried rice, dried pasta, anything that has a high carb and fiber.
Right, so like beans and rice and spices.
Herbs, spices. You're going to want lots of water because I don't think anybody really realizes how much water somebody needs to consume during the day, especially if you have kids. These are things that, and this is something that I've been meaning to do and I just haven't. And every time I go to the grocery store, I feel guilty. But if there is a caseload sale, because a lot of grocery stores will have it at least 2 to 3 times a year, caseload sales, buy the case.
Yeah.
Why not? Buy the case, Put it in your garage.
Right.
Put it in your basement, whatever. Buy the case, leave it. And every time you do that, buy another case of something.
I think that it would be good for my root chakra to make an apocalypse shelf in October. Yeah. Just because, like, what is, like, this is my question, like, going back to, like, modern, like, mainstream media, it's like, what do they want us to do? Like, if it's true, like, if all this shit is true, that we're, like basically bitch slapping each other.
Yeah.
Like, you're a dick. You're a rocket man. So there. And my plane is coming to drive over your company, like, or over your country. It's like, dude, sorry if this is, like, late breaking news. However, if any of this stuff is true,
mm-hmm.
why does it not come with also make sure that there's X amount of food and water in your homes?
Yeah.
We are in trouble sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? It leads me to believe one of two things. There's nothing to worry about because this is all made up.
Yeah.
Or that there's going to be some kind of benefit for us not being prepared.
Yeah.
Which is, like, the kind of thing that I don't like to think about. Yeah. Like, you know, when we start talking about, like, global population control and stuff like this, like, yeah. I don't like talking about that shit. And I really like to believe that, like, I am everybody, and everybody that has a human heart is beating in the same direction. The corporation is what the problem is for me, only because a human heart does not drive that tank.
Yeah.
Right? It's like a group of shareholders that needs to vote for profitability.
Yeah.
Like, because it's their purpose.
Yeah.
Right? Just like it's a mom's purpose to, like, nourish her family.
Yeah. And I think it's so if that's something that concerns you, you know, don't wait for the emergency alert to hit the TV to be prepared for something.
I agree.
You know, that's what always happens is, oh, there's going to be a snowstorm, a hurricane, a tropical storm, an earthquake, whatever. Name your natural disaster.
What about just, like, a gas strike?
Right.
Like an oil strike where it's like nothing's coming in and nothing's going out. And, like, where do you go? Like, my kids don't get to go to school if I can't buy fuel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like,
so why not just be prepared? I mean, it's, you know, and I think there's this, and media does this too. It's this double standard. So yeah, we want you to be prepared when it hits. So yeah, so you've got a hurricane coming in 2 days. Now you can go to the grocery stores and prepare. Where, you know, 2 weeks before it's like, oh, preppers are crazy. Pick.
Yeah.
You either want us to be prepared.
We're either on the verge of World War.
So when you go to the grocery store and you see the cases of water on sale, just buy a couple extra cases and stick them in your basement.
And in the meantime, don't drink that shit.
Right. Yeah, don't drink bottled water. But
that's all you've got.
It's good to have bottled water rather than no water.
Oh yeah, and for some reason I feel like if something were to happen that way, I just don't think that, unless it's like a fire or a flood where we actually have to get out.
Yeah.
And I mean, my God, Alberta, like, how much natural disaster have we seen here? Like, none. Yeah. Like, until Fort Mac, right? Yeah. And that you couldn't have seen that coming. Well, that's not true. We had a big ass flood not so long ago, right? Yeah. So it's like, you know, I almost feel embarrassed that I want to, like, do this, like, apocalypse shelving, because it's like, is anybody else, like, not feeling so secure? You know, like, I trust myself. I don't trust like the masses afraid. Like, all of a sudden, like, my plan would be, like, stay in my house until the highway clears out.
Yeah.
Because, like, sitting on the highway, burning more fuel while we, like, freak out and get out of the city, you know, I don't know. I mean,
I think you're not as uncommon as you would like to think, because I think a lot of people think about it, especially with the shitstorm that is our world right now. It's perfectly natural to think that way. And I think there's a lot of moms that think that way, but they don't want to talk about it because they're worried about what the other moms are going to think. Oh, that bitch is crazy. Like, she thinks that the world's going to end. Well, it's not a matter of thinking the world's going to end. It's just if something were to, even being in Didsbury,
Yeah.
if we get a massive snowstorm that shuts down our power,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? Muckluck it to AG Foods?
Yeah.
With your
and what are their employees doing, right? Yeah, like, I mean,
are they even going to be open because now their power is shut off too?
Well, and that's the other thing. It's like weather is going to continue to get more and more extreme. Like, until what?
Yeah.
Right? Like, and it's like, you know, I saw these forest fire, these not forest fires, the fires of Fort Mac. I guess they are forest fires. They've got to be. And I didn't realize there was that much forest around Fort Mac.
Yeah.
It's really foresty up there, isn't it?
Yep, it is.
That's like, I miss the forest. I think that the whole forest is in BC. I never go north of Alberta. I always go like west. Just me and the Shuswap back and forth. And I don't know. I guess what I'm getting at for myself and what I'm avoiding saying is like this October, I'm committed to a few things. And one of them is eating whole foods. I can see the need for a deep freeze, and I can see the need for like a harvest chopping party.
Yeah.
And also I'm just gonna stop talking about this apocalypse shelving, and I'm just gonna commit to doing it.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do it. Like, I'm gonna just like, it almost like freaks me out to do it. Like, it gives me almost like an adrenaline rush to be like, this could be a possibility.
Yeah.
Even though Calgary, even though Alberta, even though Canada isn't like, you know, Canada is kind of like, there's North Korea and then there's the US, and it's kind of like, like we don't really know, like, is this going to affect us? Like, of course it's going to affect us. It affects us all the time. Like, you know, like,
well,
how the dollar goes.
A lot of what people think about is,
because
if I were to do this, what does it actually mean? You know, if I build my apocalypse shelving, if I store water that I don't necessarily drink, what does that actually mean? And that scares the shit out of people because it's being personally responsible.
Yeah.
When we've been basically taught to not be personally responsible. So just do it. Yeah, just do it.
Exhale.
Yep.
I think I'm gonna deal with a great deal of my stress when that's actually complete.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm feeling good about this show. I'm feeling I'm headed in a good direction this month, and I'm excited to share with the community.
Whole Food October.
Here comes my little man, so we should probably either introduce him or feed him or something like.
Go feed him on your pre-Whole Food October.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be like, hey, what's up, Declan? Oh, we're just gonna we'll just pick our nose for fun.
Yay, Whole Foods.
Exactly. Okay, so tomorrow on Heart Connect Media, we have Scott.
Yeah.
Dr. Scott is coming to talk. I call him Dr. Scott. He's not a doctor. Scott Hutchison is a community organizer, and he's a massage therapist, and he's an allergy specialist, actually. So on the topic of food and kids being allergic to food and kids being like needing this and needing that, I would like to introduce the community to Scott, and he does a lot of cool things. He's got an event coming up called the Energy Rich Day. It's in October, and so he'll be on tomorrow talking about what it's like to work with children and food sensitivities, and then he'll talk about some weird like wizardy stuff because he's like one of those like really intelligent people that like knows a lot about a lot. So we can see.
Well, that goes with the Whole Foods October.
Exactly. See, we're already trending and we're like in the rhythm. So,
yeah, exactly.
Okie dokie. And and then we have some exciting things happening throughout the week, actually. So, and we want to be live. Sorry that we're not live today. We just have to undo that juggernaut. We don't know what to do. We'll figure it out.
If there's any Zoom experts out there that know how to do Facebook Live Zoom, please message us.
Yeah, I think we might have to switch over from Zoom to like this other piece of software that I have. So it's just me needing to like, you know, IT things.
Yeah.
a shout out to Tim Malloy, my beloved, who is an IT professional who can actually sit down and help me with this tonight, and be live tomorrow. We don't have to jigger it.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. Thanks, Tracy.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.